Factoring using the distributive property and greatest common factor. These expressions need to be factored, so we need to look at the expressions that we are given, and we need to find the greatest common factor of each of the terms. And as we talked about in class, starting with the number, regardless of whether it's a coefficient or a constant, that is the least, is going to be where you want to start. So here you can see I have a -2, a 2, and a 20. And so I would start with 2. The other thing I would do is change this to an addition and this to a subtraction. Because when I factor, then I know I'm going to have all addition signs inside my parentheses. And I can write my parentheses down here, and I can put 2 plus signs, and I can put my variables down here right now. Because when I find my common factor, I am just going to put it out here. And then I don't have to worry about remembering to bring these variables down to make my answer correct. So because my smallest number here is 2, and I only have 2 numbers that are factors of 2, I know my greatest common factor is 2. So I'm going to put that out here. Once I have it out here, I'm just going to ask myself, what do I multiply 2 by to get a -2n? When I use the distributive property, well, that would have to be a -1n. Now, you don't have to write the 1 there. You can just write a -n. But writing the 1 there is okay. As you get further and further into algebra, you're going to see that they're going to drop that 1. 2 times what gives me a 2? Well, that would just be a 1. And 2 times what number gives me -20? Well, that's going to be a -10. And then I can check myself to make sure that I did this correctly. 2 times -n would be -2n. 2 times 1 is 2. And 2 times -10s is -20s. Jumping down here to number 6b, I'm going to change this to a plus and make that a -63. Change this to a plus and make this a -54u. So now I'm going to look at the number that has the least absolute value, and that would be my 9. So the factors of 9 are easy. And so now I just have to check and see, I think I'll start with my greatest one because that's actually what I'm looking for. Is 9 a factor of 63? Yes. 9 times 7 is 63. Is it a factor of 54? Yes. So my greatest common factor that I'm going to be using is 9. So this is going to be, I'm going to have 3 terms here. 1, 2, 3. They're all going to have pluses in between them. And one of them is going to have a V. That one's not going to have anything. This one's going to have a U behind it. And the factor that is going to go on the outside is 9. So 9 times what gives me a -9v? Well, that's going to be a negative V, or a -1v if you want to put the 1 in there. 9 times what gives me a -63? That's going to be a -7. And 9 times what gives me a -54u? That's going to be a -6. And I already have my u there. Checking. 9 times -1v is -9v. 9 times -7 is -63. 9 times -6u is -54u. I don't really think that many of these are going to give you much trouble. The numbers aren't really large. They look to be basic facts for the most part. You just need to remember to change these subtraction signs and the number following it to their opposite sign. For the most part, what we've been having are changing this to a plus and this to a negative, this to a plus and this to a negative. But if we would have had something like negative 7g minus a negative 7 minus a negative 56q, and there probably would have been parentheses around this, you would have been changing this to a plus and this to a plus, this to a plus sign and this to its opposite, making it positive. So I just want to remind you that when you change the subtraction sign to an addition sign, you're changing the next number to its opposite sign, whatever that opposite is.